I couldn't reach my daughter for 5 days. When I went to her house, I heard scratching under the bed. Chapter 1. The first call went to voicemail. That wasn't strange. Jessica was a busy woman. She had her own life, her own schedule. I left a message. Just to check in. Hi, honey. It's Mom. Call me when you get a chance. The second call, 3 hours later, also went to voicemail. I figured she was still at work. She was a paralegal at a firm in town. They worked long hours. I didn't want to be one of those mothers who hovered. I remembered my own mother-in-law, always calling, always needing something. I promised myself I would never be like that. By the end of day 2, a knot had formed in my stomach. It was a physical thing, a tightness in my chest that wouldn't ease. I called her work number. A receptionist answered. I asked for Jessica. There was a pause. She said Jessica hadn't been in for a few days. Sick, they thought. She'd called in on Monday morning, voice all scratchy. That was the last anyone at the office had heard from her. That was when the knot in my stomach tightened into a rope. I felt it pull. I tried not to let my mind go to the RK places. It's not like Jessica to just disappear. But she's an adult. She has a key to her house, a car in the GA rage. People get busy. They get sick. Day 3. I drove past her house. It was a small ranch-style home on a quiet cul-de-sac in a suburb outside of Cleveland. Her blue Honda was in the driveway. I parked across the street and just sat there, STA ring. The curtains were drawn. The mail was piling up in the box by the door. A neighbor was out walking their dog, a little yappy thing. They waved. I forced a smile. I thought about calling the police. But what would I say? My 42-year-old daughter hasn't answered her phone for 3 days. They'd tell me to wait. Adults are allowed to ignore their phones. It wasn't a crime. I drove home. My husband, Tom, was at the kitchen table, drinking his coffee and reading the paper. He looked up. Any word? No, I said, my voice smaller than I intended. Don't worry, Helen, he said. She probably just needs some space. You know how she gets. He was right. Jessica did get that way sometimes. She was always a private person, even as a child. She kept her feelings close to her chest. She'd inherited that from Tom. But something felt different. There was a thin, high-pitched buzzing in my ears. It was the sound of a warning I couldn't quite hear. Day 4. I called my other daughter, Sarah. She lived out in California. She hadn't heard from Jessica either. Mom, calm down, she said. She sounded tired. The time difference was a factor. Jess is probably just in a mood. A mood for 4 days, I asked. Maybe she went on a trip. Maybe she lost her phone. She didn't tell me. She didn't tell her job, I persisted. Mom, I have to go. The kids are in the pool. I heard splashing in the background. A child's shriek of laughter. It was the sound of a normal life. It felt so far away. Day 5. It was the longest day of my life. The silence from Jessica's phone was a physical presence in my house. It occupied every empty space. The quiet felt heavy. I couldn't eat. I tried to have toast, but it tasted like Boe Road in my mouth. I couldn't focus on the TV. The screen was just a blur of colors. By the afternoon, I was pacing the living room floor. Tom tried to calm me down. Helen, you're working yourself up over nothing. This is what you do. You make a mountain out of a molehill. This is not a molehill. I snapped. Something is wrong. Tom looked at me, sta riled. I raised my voice. Okay, he said, his voice softer. Okay. Why don't we drive over there together if you're this worried? We'll go check. I'm going alone, I said. He protested. He wanted to come. He said I was being dramatic. But the more he told me to calm down, the more frantic I felt inside. I was vibrating with a terrible, nameless energy. I felt like a wild animal that had been caged too long. I grabbed my purse and my keys. I didn't even look at him as I walked out the door. I just heard a sigh as the door clicked shut behind me. The drive to Jessica's house was a blur of suburban landscape. Strip malls, gas stations, green lawns. It all looked the same. I couldn't tell you if I stopped at any red lights. I couldn't tell you if I drove the speed limit. I was a woman on a mission. When I pulled into her driveway, I saw the same blue Honda. The mail was now overflowing the box. A flyer had been tucked under the windshield wiper. It was so quiet. The kind of quiet that makes your skin prickle. I walked up the front path. The grass was a little long. It needed a mow. Jessica usually took care of that herself. My hands were shaking as I fumbled for the spa key. It wasn't under the ceramic frog. It wasn't under the mat. That was our arrangement. She always kept one there for emergencies. My heartsta root pounding. A cold sweat broke out on my forehead. Where was the key? I looked under the mat again. Nothing. I peered into the window by the door. It was dark inside. I knocked. I pounded on the door. Jessica. Jessica, it's Mom. Silence. Just the sound of my own ragged breathing. That's when I noticed the side gate. It led to the backyard road. I walked around the side of the house. The gate was unlocked. I pushed it open and felt the grass crunch under my feet. It was dead and brown from a dry spell. I went to the back door. It was a sliding glass door. I peered in. I could see into the kitchen. A glass of water was on the counter. A plate, half eaten, was next to it. A chair was pushed out from the table. It looked like she'd just gotten up from a meal. I slid the screen door open. It was unlocked too. That was strange. Jessica always locked her doors. She was careful. Her father had taught her that. I stepped inside the kitchen. The air was stale. It smelled faintly of old food and something else. Something sour. Jessica, I called out. My voice echoed in the quiet of the house. Honey, it's Mom. Are you okay? No answer. I moved through the kitchen and into the living room. The television was off. A book was lying open on the coffee table. The lamp was on. The silence was ringing in my ears. It was oppressive. It felt like the house itself was holding its breath. Jessica, I called again, louder this time. My voice cracked. I climbed the stairs. Each step creaked. I felt a cold dread settling in my bones. It was the kind of dread you feel before you find out something terrible. I reached the top of the stairs. The hallway was dark. The door to her bedroom was cracked open. A sliver of darkness. Jessica, I whispered. My throat was tight. I could rely get the words out. I pushed the door open. The room was a wreck. The bed was unmade. The closet door was open. Clothes were on the floor. It looked like there had been a struggle. My breath hitched. Then I heard a soft sound. A rhythmic, irritating sound. Scratching. Coming from under the bed. It was a frantic little sound. It made the hair on the back of my neck stand up. My heart stopped. My brain went blank. I was frozen in the doorway. The scratching stopped. Then it sta root again. It was a panic sound. A desperate, furtive sound. I looked under the bed. I saw two eyes sta ring back at me. Not human eyes. Bright, yellow, glowing eyes in a bed of darkness. They blinked. Then, the thing under the bed began to speak to me. Its voice wasn't Jessica's. It was a raspy, broken, terrible sound. Mom, it whispered. The voice, if you could call it that, came out in a low, desperate rasp. It was a sound that grated against the inside of my skull. Mom, help me. I scrambled backward, my back slamming against the wall opposite the bed. My breath was gone. I was gasping for air, but nothing was filling my lungs. I sta read at the space under the bed. Those eyes were still there, glowing like twin coals in the darkness. The scratching resumed. It was more frantic now. The sound of nails or claws dragging across the wooden floorboards. Yes, Jessica, I finally managed to choke out. My whole body was trembling. My legs felt like they were made of jelly. Is that you? Mom, I'm stuck. The voice was thin and reedy. It didn't sound anything like my daughter. My daughter had a confident voice. This was a sound of pure desperation. It's dark. It's so dark. I can't get out. I forced myself to look again. The eyes were still there, watching me. I wanted to scream. I wanted to run out of that house and never come back. But that was my daughter. Or something that sounded like my daughter. I had to be sure. I took a shaky step closer to the bed. I reached out and grabbed the edge of the dusty bed skirt. My hand was shaking so violently, I could rely grip the fabric. Show me your face, I commanded, trying to make my voice sound firm. It came out as a trembling whisper. I can't, the voice whimpered. It's too dark. I'm stuck under something. It's so heavy. I had to see. With a surge of adrenaline, I yanked the bed skirt up. The space underneath was shrouded in thick shadows. I blinked, trying to adjust my eyes to the darkness. I saw a shape there, huddled against the floor. It was small and curled in on itself. I reached for my phone in my pocket. I fumbled with it, my fingers clumsy and unresponsive. I turned on the flashlight app. A beam of hot RSH white light cut through the darkness. I pointed it under the bed. What I saw made me gasp. It wasn't Jessica. It was something else. It was a person, I think. But they were covered in a thick, dark grime. It was like they'd been buried in soot. They were wearing a tattered, dirty white nightgown, the same one I'd seen Jessica wear on 100 occasions. The thing had her hair, long and dark, but it was matted and tangled with dirt and debris. Its hands were reaching out towards me. And its fingers, the nails were long and sharp, like an animal's claws. They were scratching at the floorboards, leaving deep grooves in the wood. "Please, Mom," the thing whimpered. "Please help me. I've been here for days. I can't move. I'm so red." I recoiled. A surge of revulsion went through me. My stomach lurched. I dropped the phone. It clattered onto the floor, the light shining uselessly against the ceiling. The room plunged back into darkness. "No," I breathed. "You're not Jessica. Who are you?" Something in the underbed darkness shifted. The shape seemed to writhe. The scratching stopped again. There was a long, terrible pause. "I'm your daughter," the voice said, suddenly clear. It sounded almost like Jessica now. It was a perfect imitation. "Don't you recognize me, Mom? I'm your little girl." My heart was pounding against my ribs. I felt a sheen of cold sweat on my skin. The air in the room felt thick and heavy, like I was breathing through a wet towel. I scrambled for my phone. I picked it up, my fingers still shaking. I aimed the light under the bed again. The thing was closer now. It had moved. It was no longer huddled against the wall. It was right at the edge of the bed, its face inches from the flashlight's beam. And it was wearing Jessica's face. The features were correct. The same high cheekbones, the same small nose, the same full lips. But the skin was pallid and gray, stretched thin over the bones. The eyes were the worst part. They weren't Jessica's soft brown eyes. They were the yellow, glowing orbs I'd first seen. They didn't reflect the light, they seemed to absorb it. It was a mask. A perfect, terrifying mask of my daughter's face, stretched over something else. "See, Mom," it said, using Jessica's voice. It was disorienting. The voice was exactly right. The tone, the inflection, everything. "It's me. Help me." I felt a pull. A deep, instinctual motherly pull. Every fiber of my being screamed at me to help this thing, to save my child. It was an overwhelming sensation, a tidal wave of maternal love and fear. But some part of my brain, some small, logical part that was clinging to sanity, screamed a warning. It wasn't Jessica. It couldn't be. The thing's hand shot out from under the bed and wrapped around my ankle. Its grip was cold and harrowed. Not like a human hand. It was like a vice. It squeezed with immense pressure, and I cried out in pain. "You're not my daughter," I screamed. I tried to pull my leg free, but its grip was like iron. The thing on the floor root to laugh. It was Jessica's laugh, but it was hollow and cruel, devoid of any warmth. It echoed in the small, quiet bedroom. "Not your daughter," it chuckled, its voice distorting slightly. "Look closer, Mom. Look at my face." I shone the light directly at it. I could see the layers of grime now and something else. The skin around its cheeks was flaking off. Underneath it, I saw a patch of something dark, something that looked like dried blood and exposed muscle. "Jessica is dead," I said, the words tasting bitter in my mouth. The certainty of it settled over me like a blanket of ice. The thing's laugh stopped. Its face twisted. The perfect imitation of Jessica's features contorted into an expression of pure malevolence. The mouth opened too wide, revealing rows of jagged, pointed teeth. It wasn't Jessica's smile. "She's not dead," the thing snarled. "But you can join her." I did the only thing I could think of. I kicked. I kicked as hard as I could, aiming the heel of my shoe at the thing's face. I connected with something hard and fleshy. There was a wet crunch. The thing howled in pain and released my ankle. I didn't wait. I scrambled backward on my hands and knees, grabbing my phone as I went. I got to my feet and ran. I flew down the stairs, my feet rely touching the steps. I crashed through the living room, knocking over a lamp. I reached the front door and yanked it open, stumbling out onto the front porch. I didn't stop running until I was in my car. I slammed the door, hit the lock button, and just sat there, gripping the steering wheel with white-knuckled hands. My chest was heaving. I was sobbing, great, gulping sobs that racked my entire body. I looked in my rearview mirror at the house. It looked quiet, peaceful. A normal house on a normal street. But I knew better. I fumbled for my phone to call 911. I had to tell someone. I had to get help. But my thumb hovered over the call button. Who would believe me? A creature under the bed, a monster. We ring my daughter's face. They'd think I was a crazy old woman. They'd think I'd had a stroke. I looked back at the house. In the upstairs window, I saw a flicker of light. The bedroom light came on. A figure read in the window. It was the thing, standing there, looking down at me. It was wearing Jessica's body. It was wearing her nightgown. It raised a hand and waved. My blood turned to ice. I threw the car into reverse and tore out of the driveway, my tires screeching against the asphalt. I drove for miles without direction. I was in a blind panic. My hands were shaking so hard I could rely keep the car on the road. The image of that thing standing in the window, waving, was burned into my retinas. It was a grotesque, mocking gesture. I pulled into a rest stop off the highway. I killed the engine and just sat there, staring at the empty parking lot. The fluorescent lights overhead hummed and flickered. They bathed everything in a sickly yellow glow. I tried to get my breathing under control. I was hyperventilating. My chest was tight. I felt like I was having a heart attack. I put my head between my knees and focused on the cold plastic of the steering wheel against my forehead. Just breathe, Helen. Just breathe. I needed to think. I needed to make a plan. What do you do when your daughter is dead and something else is wearing her skin? My mind flashed to Sarah. My other daughter, safe in California. I needed to warn her. I needed to hear her voice. I needed the comfort of something normal. I dialed her number. It rang. And rang. And rang. Hi, you've reached Sarah. Leave a message. Sarah, it's Mom. I need you to call me back. It's about Jessica. It's an emergency. Just call me, please. My voice was too high-pitched. I was on the verge of hysterics. I ended the call and read at my phone. What was I supposed to do? Who could I call? The police, my husband Tom. I had to tell Tom. He had to know what was in our daughter's house. But how could I explain it? He was a practical man. A man of facts and logic. He'd never believe me. I decided to go home. I had to. Where else could I go? I needed to be somewhere safe. The drive home was a nightmare. Every shadow on the side of the road felt like a threat. Every car that approached in the oncoming lane felt like it was coming for me. I kept glancing in my rearview mirror, expecting to see that thing in the back seat, its yellow eyes watching me. When I finally pulled into my own driveway, I felt a sliver of relief. The house looked normal. The lights were on. Tom would be there. I could hide in the light. I went inside. The house was quiet. Tom, I called out. Tom, are you here? I walked into the living room. He was sitting in his own chair, a book in his lap. He wasn't reading it. He was just sitting there, staring at the wall. Tom, I said again, my voice trembling. Tom, I need to tell you something. Something happened at Jessica's house. He slowly turned his head to look at me. His face was blank. Expressionless. Hello, Helen, he said. His voice was flat. Tom, are you okay? I asked. I was suddenly frightened by his demeanor. Something was wrong. My skin was prickling again. I'm fine, he said. I've been waiting for you to come home. I walked over to him. I was going to sit on the arm of his chair, but I stopped. There was something in his lap. His hands were clasped over it. It was a picture frame. A photo of Jessica and me at her college graduation. We were both smiling. It was a happy day. Tom, please, you have to listen to me, I begged. Jessica, there's something in her house. It's not her. Don't worry, Helen, he said. He wasn't looking at me. He was looking at the picture. She's right here. He turned the picture frame around. The glass was cracked. Jessica's face in the photo was scratched out, the paper gouged and torn. It was a vicious, hateful act of vandalism. I stumbled back. Road. Tom, what have you done? He stood up. He dropped the frame on the floor. The glass shattered. He turned to face me. And I saw his eyes. They were glowing. A faint, sickly yellow. I wanted to scream, but no sound came out. I was frozen, a prey animal caught in the headlights of an oncoming truck. Your daughter is waiting for you, Helen, he said. There was something else in his voice now. A dual tone. A deep, grating resonance layered underneath his normal voice. You should have stayed at her house. You're not Tom, I whispered. The words were barely audible. He took a step towards me. I took a step back. My heel hit the coffee table. I was trapped. There is no Tom, he said. He smiled. It was Tom's smile, but it was wrong. It was too wide. The same smile I'd seen on the creature under the bed. There never was. Just me. The world spun around me. My mind was reeling. If Tom wasn't Tom, then how long had this been going on? Was he even my husband? How long had I been living with a monster? Root to shake my head. No, I said, over and over. No. This can't be happening. Jessica made a mistake, the Tom thing said. She found my old hiding place. She saw something she shouldn't have. I had to clean up the mess. Where is she? I screamed. What did you do to my daughter? He laughed. It was a horrible, guttural sound that echoed in the living room. It vibrated right through me. Your daughter is under the bed, Helen. She's been there all along. But it's not her you heard scratching. It's me. I've been waiting for the bait to bring you home. Suddenly, I understood. The 5 days of silence. The unanswered calls. The thing in the house. The creature we ring my daughter's face. It was all a trap. A lure. It was never about Jessica. It was about me. Stay away from me, I hissed. I looked around for something, anything, to use as a weapon. My eyes landed on a heavy brass candlestick on the mantelpiece. I've been waiting for you to come home, Helen, it said, stepping closer. I've been so patient. The others will be so pleased. The floor beneath my feet root to feel different. It was vibrating. A low, rhythmic hum was coming from the floorboards. I looked down. Under the rug, I saw movement. Small, grotesque shapes were squirming and writhing. Pale fingers, like maggots, were pushing their way through the cracks in the wooden floor. My house. It was infested. The thing inside Jessica's house had followed me here. Or maybe it had been here all along, hiding in the walls, waiting for the right moment. I lunged for the candlestick. My fingers wrapped around the cold brass. I turned and swung it as hard as I could at the Tom thing's head. The candlestick connected with a sickening crack. Its head snapped to the side. A dark, viscous fluid oozed from the wound. It wasn't blood. It was something black and tar-like. The thing didn't fall. It just stood there, its head lolling at an unnatural angle. It slowly turned its face back to me. The yellow eyes were blazing with hatred. You're going to pay for that, Helen, it snarled. I didn't wait to see what happened next. I ran. I ran out of the living room, through the kitchen, and into the garage. I grabbed a can of gasoline I'd bought for the lawnmower. I ran back into the house. The Tom thing was following me. It was moving slowly, its head still cocked to the side. Behind it, the shapes were emerging from the floorboards, small, twisted figures with tiny, grasping hands. I splashed the gasoline everywhere. On the couch. On the curtains. On the carpet. I pulled out a box of matches from the junk drawer in the kitchen. Don't do it, Helen, the Tom thing said. The dual tone in its voice was stronger now. It was practically ROA ring. We'll just find another way. I looked at it. At the face of my husband. My daughter's father. A man I'd loved for over 40 years. I could see the gentle curve of his jaw, the softness in the lines around his eyes. I saw a lifetime of memories. But I also saw the truth. That man was gone. He'd been taken from me, hollowed out and filled with darkness. And my daughter, my sweet, beautiful Jessica. They were gone. I had nothing left to lose. I lit a match. The flame was so bright, so beautiful, it almost hurt to look at. Goodbye, Tom, I whispered. I threw the match onto the gasoline-soaked floor. The fire didn't just start. It exploded. A wall of heat and light that knocked me off my feet. The force of the blast threw me back way road. I hit the hard concrete floor of the garage, and the world went dark for a moment. I heard a low, guttural scream that wasn't human. It was a sound of pure rage and agony. It was the sound of the things inside my house burning. I lay on the cold floor, ring up at the ceiling. The air around me was thick with smoke. I could feel the heat on my face, even from where I was. I had to get out. I scrambled to my feet. My head was pounding. I was disoriented. The garage door was right there. I fumbled with the latch and pushed it up. Fresh air hit my face. I stumbled out onto the driveway. The house behind me was already engulfed. Flames were leaping from the windows. The roof was rooting to cave in. The night sky was filled with an orange glow. I ran to the end of the driveway and collapsed onto the grass. I was sobbing. My body was racked with convulsions. My throat burned. My lungs felt like they were on fire. I watched my home, the home I'd built with my husband, the home where I'd raised my children, burn to the ground. The thing inside it was gone. The Tom thing. The shapes in the floor. All of it. But at what cost? I had nothing left. My husband was dead. My daughter was dead. My home was gone. I sat there on the wet grass, watching the inferno. Tears streamed down my face. I didn't have the strength to stand up. I didn't have the strength to move. Soon, I heard sirens in the distance. The fire trucks arrived. The paramedics came. They tried to put a blanket around me. They asked me questions. I couldn't answer them. I just read at the fire. They took me to the hospital. They treated me for smoke inhalation. They wanted to keep me overnight for observation. I didn't argue. I didn't have the energy to argue. I was given a sedative. I fell into a dreamless sleep. When I woke up, the morning light was filtering through the blinds of the hospital room. I felt hollow, empty, like all the life had been drained out of me. A police officer was sitting in the chair by my bed. A young man with kind eyes. Mrs. Risen, he said. My name is Detective Miller. I'm with the Arson and Homicide Unit. Homicide, I croaked. My voice was a hoa RSE whisper. Your husband was in the house, ma'am, he said gently. I'm sorry. We're still trying to determine the cause of the fire. A neighbor said they saw you running from the garage. I read at him. I knew what he was implying. He thought I'd set the fire. That I'd killed my husband. It was under the bed, I whispered. Excuse me, it was under the bed, I repeated. I didn't know how to explain it. I didn't have the words. My daughter. She was under the bed. At her house. The detective's expression shifted. He looked at me with a mix of pity and suspicion. He wrote something down in his notebook. Ma'am, we've been to your daughter's house, he said ruefully. You were there yesterday. The neighbor reported seeing you. Did you find her? I asked. I felt a flicker of hope. Maybe they'd found Jessica. Maybe she was alive. Find who, Mom? My daughter. Jessica. She was under the bed. The detective exchanged a look with a nurse who had just entered the room. The nurse was holding a clipboard road. She looked worried. Mrs. Risen, the detective said, his voice even gentler. We went to your daughter's house. There was no one there. The house was neat and orderly. There was a note on the counter. It was from your daughter. I shook my head. A note? What did it say? She said she was going on a trip with a friend. She said she'd be back in a week. She said she told you, but she might have forgotten. I felt a cold dread washing over me. The thing. It was ruder than I thought. It had set up a cover story. It was preparing for me. She wasn't on a trip, I said. She was under the bed. The detective stood up. He put his notebook in his pocket. Mrs. Risen, I think you've been through a lot. The doctor's recommending you rest. We'll talk more later. He left the room. I was alone with the nurse. He doesn't believe me, I said. Just rest, Mrs. Risen, the nurse said. She adjusted my drip. You need to let your body recover. I didn't want to rest. I wanted to go back to Jessica's house. I wanted to prove I wasn't crazy. I was discharged from the hospital the next day. Tom's funeral was in 3 days. Sarah had flown in from California. She was staying at a hotel. She came to pick me up from the hospital. She was pale and drawn. She'd been crying. Mom, she said, hugging me tightly. I'm so sorry. I can't believe Dad's gone. I didn't have the words to comfort her. How could I tell her that the man who was buried wasn't her father? How could I tell her what I'd seen? We drove to the hotel in silence. The streets of my town looked the same. Normal. Peaceful. No one knew what was lurking in the shadows. When we got to her hotel room, sta rude asking questions. She wanted to know what had happened. She wanted to know why I'd been at Jessica's house. I told her everything. I told her about the 5 days of silence. I told her about the scratching under the bed. I told her about the creature we ringed Jessica's face. I told her about coming home and finding the thing we ringed Tom. I watched her face as I spoke. Her eyes widened. Her mouth fell open. When I was finished, she just read at me. Mom, she said slowly, her voice shaking. You need help. You've been through a terrible shock. You need to see a doctor. I knew she didn't believe me. She thought I'd lost my mind. Grief had made me crazy. She probably thought I'd set the fire in a fit of madness. I couldn't blame her. It sounded insane. I'm not crazy, I said. I saw what I saw. Mom, you're talking about monsters. You set the house on fire with Dad inside. Your father was already dead, I said, a new wave of TRS flooding my eyes. That thing in him was going to kill me. It was we ring your sister's skin. Please, Ra said, holding up her hands. Please stop. I can't listen to this. She walked out of the room. She left me alone in the hotel room. I heard the door click shut. I sat on the bed, ring at the wall. My mind was racing. They thought I was crazy. The police thought I was a murderer. My daughter thought I was losing my mind. But I knew the truth. The thing was still out there. The creatures were out there. They lived in the hidden spaces. Under beds. In the dark corners of closets. Behind the walls. They wore our faces. They pretended to be us. And they were coming for me. I couldn't let them get to Ra. I had to protect her. I had to make her believe me. But I didn't know how. I looked at my phone. I still had a key to Jessica's house. The spa-re key I'd never found under the mat. It was hidden in my purse, in a secret pocket. I'd always kept one there. The thing at Jessica's house hadn't known about it. If I could get to Jessica's house before they cleaned it out, maybe I could find proof. Something to show Ra. Something to show the police. Something that would prove I wasn't crazy. I stood up from the bed. I felt a renewed sense of purpose. I wasn't going to wait for them to come for me. I was going to go back. I was going to find the thing, and I was going to kill it. The drive back to Jessica's house was a death march. Every mile felt like a step closer to my own grave. But I couldn't stop. I couldn't turn back. This was my last chance. I parked my car down the street, not in the driveway. I didn't want to announce my arrival. I approached the house from the back, the same way I'd entered before. The grass was still dead and brown. The sun was rooting to set, casting long, eerie shadows across the road. The back door was still unlocked. I slipped inside, my heart hammering in my chest. The house was dark, quiet. Too quiet. It didn't feel empty. It felt like it was waiting. I crept up the stairs, each step feeling like a betrayal of my own instinct to flee. I reached Jessica's bedroom door. It was wide open. The room was different. The bed was made. The clothes were picked up. It looked like someone had cleaned it. The orderly scene was more terrifying than the chaos had been. I walked to the bed. I stood there, staring at it. The white bed skirt hung down, a veil over the darkness beneath. I knew it was down there. I could feel it. The air in the room was cold. It was like standing in a freezer. I knelt down. My knees hit the floor with a soft thud. I reached out with a trembling hand. My fingers touched the fabric of the bed skirt. I hesitated. Then I yanked it up. The space under the bed was empty. Just dust bunnies and old slippers. A wave of relief washed over me. It was gone. The house was clean. But that relief was quickly replaced by a deeper, more primal fear. If it wasn't here, then where was it? I heard a creak behind me. I spun around. The door to the walk-in closet was open. It had been closed when I came in. Jessica, I whispered. Is that you? A figure stepped out of the darkness of the closet. It was Jessica. It was wearing her blue sundress, the one she wore to family barbecues. It was perfect. It looked exactly like her. "Hello, Mom," she said, smiling. It was Jessica's smile. The loving smile I'd seen 1,000 times. "I knew you'd come back. You're not my daughter," I said. My voice was surprisingly steady. I found my anger. It was a powerful thing, burning away the fear. The creature tilted its head. It smiled wider. It was that too wide smile again. The one that showed just a hint of those jagged teeth. "No," it said. "I'm not." Its face sta rude to shift. The skin rippled and melted. The features contorted and rearranged themselves. The blue sundress dissolved into shadows. The thing in front of me was no longer Jessica. It was a tall, gaunt figure with pale skin and long, spindly limbs. Its head was too big for its body. Its eyes were the same yellow, glowing orbs. And it was smiling. A horrible, grotesque smile full of sharp teeth. "You see," it hissed. "This is what we are. This is what we've always been." Behind it, more shapes were emerging from the closet. More of the things. They were crawling out of the walls, sliding out from under the bed. Dozens of them. They filled the room. They surrounded me. They were all wearing faces. Faces of people I knew. My neighbor. The mailman. The woman who worked at the grocery store. The pastor from my church. They were all dead. They'd all been taken. "Your husband," the tall thing said. "He was a good host. Strong. It took a long time to hollow him out. We were in him for years." My blood ran cold. Years. The thing had been in my husband for years. It had been living with me, watching me, waiting. "You," I breathed. "You were in him all that time. You saw everything. You knew everything." "Of course," it said. "We know all of you. We know your fears. Your weaknesses. Your secrets. That's how we find the right ones. The ones who are lonely. The ones who are tired. The ones who won't be missed." It took a step closer. The others followed. They were closing in on me. "Why?" I asked. My voice was a broken whisper. "Why are you doing this?" "Because you're cattle," it said simply. "And we're hungry." I looked around the room. At the nightmare that surrounded me. There was no way out. No escape. But I wasn't going to go down without a fight. "Where is my daughter?" I demanded. "Where is Jessica?" The tall thing laughed. It was a cold, hollow sound. "Your daughter is inside me," it said. Her skin. Her voice. Her memories. They're all part of me now. She's gone, Helen. She's been gone for a long time. I felt something inside me break. A dam burst. All the grief, all the fear, all the anger that I'd been holding back came flooding out in a single, primal scream. I lunged at the thing. I didn't see if it killed me. I didn't see about anything anymore. I just wanted to hurt it. I wanted to make it pay. My fingers found its throat. I squeezed with all my might. The thing was cold and dry under my hands. It felt like squeezing a sack of bones. It didn't fight back. It just stood there, laughing. Its yellow eyes were inches from mine. "So much anger," it hissed. "So much pain. You're perfect." Suddenly, I felt a sharp sting in my neck. Something had bitten me. I looked down. One of the smaller things, a twisted little creature with a mouth full of needles, had latched onto my arm. I tried to shake it off, but it held on. The pain was incredible. It felt like fire was spreading through my veins. I stumbled back road. I hit the wall. The things were closing in on me. The tall one was still laughing. "You can't kill us," it said. "We've been here forever. We were here before you. We'll be here after you. You're just a meal, Helen. A delicious meal." My vision was rooting to blur. The fire in my veins was spreading. I was getting dizzy. The room was spinning. I reached into my pocket. My fingers closed around something cold and hard. It was the brass candlestick. I'd brought it from the car. I'd planned to use it as a weapon. I didn't have the strength to swing it. I could lift my arm, but I had enough strength for one last thing. I threw the candlestick. Not at the things. At the window. The glass shattered. Fresh air flooded into the room. And with it came the sound of sirens. The creatures recoiled. They hissed and shrieked. The sound was deafening. "No," the tall thing screamed. The light. The sound. They were SCA red. They were terrified of the sirens. Of the flashing lights I could see through the broken window. I didn't understand. But I didn't see a re. It was my chance. I stumbled to RDS the broken window. I climbed over the shattered glass. I didn't feel the cuts on my hands and knees. I just felt the CL night air on my face. I jumped. I landed in the bushes below. The impact knocked the wind out of me. I lay there, gasping, watching the window above. The things were SWA remaining. They were trying to escape. They were pouring out of the house like a wave of darkness. But the police CARS were already pulling up. The flashing lights were everywhere. The sirens were deafening. The things couldn't stand it. They were dissolving. Melting away like shadows at sunrise. The tall thing ape red in the window. It looked down at me. Its yellow eyes were burning with hatred. This isn't over, it SNA led. We'll find you, Helen. We'll always find you. Then it, too, dissolved into nothing. I lay in the bushes, bleeding and broken, watching the police SWARM the house. They didn't see the things. They didn't see the darkness. They just saw a house full of broken glass and a crazy old woman in the bushes. But I knew what I'd seen. And I knew they'd be back. I closed my eyes. The world went black. I woke up in a hospital bed again. The fluorescent lights were too bright. The antiseptic smell was too strong. My body ached everywhere. Bandages covered my hands and arms. My head throbbed. A nurse was checking my vitals. She smiled when she saw my eyes open. Mrs. H.A. Risen. You're awake. You gave us quite a SCA re. Where am I? My voice was a dry rasp. Cleveland General. You were brought in last night. Multiple lacerations. Mild concussion. Some nasty cuts on your hands from the glass. The window. The jump. It all came flooding back. The police, I said. I need to speak to the police. She patted my arm. They're already here, DAR. They've been waiting for you to wake up. A familia, our face ape red in the doorway. Detective Miller. He looked tired. His suit was rumpled. He had a cup of coffee in his hand. Mrs. H.A. Risen, he said. You're a hard woman to keep track of. He pulled up a chair and sat beside my bed. He didn't look angry. He looked curious. Maybe even a little concerned. I went back to Jessica's house, I said. Before he could interrupt. I had to find proof. Proof of what? That she was dead. That something killed her. That it was wearing her face. Detective Miller sighed. He set his coffee down on the bedside table. Mrs. H.A. Risen, we searched that house top to bottom. We found no evidence of a struggle. No blood. No body. Nothing but your own blood on the broken glass from the window. You didn't see them, I said. You didn't see the things. He leaned four-way road. His voice was soft. Mrs. H.A. Risen, I've been doing this job for 15 years. I've seen people do terrible things to one another. I've seen grief destroy people. I've seen mental illness make people believe the most impossible things. I'm not here to judge you. I'm here to understand. I'm not crazy, I said. I know you think that. Don't patronize me. He held up his hands. I'm not. I'm telling you that something happened at that house. Something drove you to jump out of a second-story window. Something terrified you. I believe that. But you don't believe it was monsters. He was quiet for a long moment. Then he reached into his pocket and pulled out a photograph. It was grainy, taken from a distance. It showed the back of Jessica's house. There's something I didn't tell you before, he said. The security camera from the neighbor across the street caught something. I thought it was a glitch at first. A reflection off the glass. But I've had our tech guys look at it. They can't explain it. He showed me the photo. It was a still from the video. It showed the upstairs window of Jessica's house. The window I'd jumped from. But in the photo, the window was intact. And in the window, there was a shape. A tall, dark figure. It was thin and spindly. Its arms were too long. Its head was too large. And its eyes were glowing yellow. Just like I'd seen ISTA red at the photo. My hands STA root to shake. That's it, I whispered. That's what I saw. Detective Miller pulled the photo back. He studied my face. You've seen this before under the bed. At Jessica's house. In my own home. It wore my husband's face. It wore my daughter's face. It's been following me for years. He was quiet for a long moment. His professional skepticism was warring with something else. Something like doubt. I'm going to do something I don't normally do, he said. I'm going to recommend you be evaluated by a psychologist. Not because I think you're crazy, but because I think you've been through something traumatic. And I think you need to talk to someone who can help you process it. A psychologist won't help me, I said. The things I saw were real. They're still out there. I know you believe that. I grabbed his wrist. My grip was surprisingly strong for a woman with bandaged hands. You have to believe me. They're out there. They're hiding. They're wearing our faces. They're in the RK places. Under the beds. In the closets. Behind the walls. Detective Miller didn't pull away. He just looked at me with those tired, kind eyes. Then what do you want me to do, Mrs. H.A. Risen? I didn't have an answer for him. What could anyone do against something you couldn't see, something that could wear anyone's face? I let go of his wrist. I don't know. He stood up. I'm going to recommend you see Dr. Chen. She's the best trauma specialist in the city. She's worked with people who've been through similar things. Similar are things, people who've seen things they can't explain. People who've been through terrible loss. You're not the first person to think they saw something impossible. You won't be the last. He left the room. I was alone again. I looked at the door. I looked at the window. I looked at the ceiling, the walls, the floor. Nowhere was safe. The things could be anywhere. They could be hiding in the shadows of my hospital room. They could be wearing the face of the nurse, the doctor, the detective. I would never feel safe again. A few hours later, S.A. Ra came to see me. She looked like she hadn't slept in days. Her eyes were red. Her face was puffy. Mom, she said. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry I walked out on you. I opened my arms. She fell into them, sobbing. I held her tight, feeling the warmth of her body against mine. She was real. She was human. I could feel her heartbeat. I should have listened to you, she said. I should have believed you. You couldn't have, I said. It's not your fault. The police told me what they found on the camera, she said. They said there was a shape in the window. They said they couldn't explain it. I felt a flicker of relief. Someone was rooting to believe me. Did you see it too? I asked. No, she said. They wouldn't show me. But they said it was there. They said it was abnormal. I looked at my daughter. My only remaining child. I knew I had to protect her. I had to keep her safe. You need to leave, I said. Go back to California. Take the kids. Don't come back here. Don't ever come back here. Mom, I can't leave you like this. You have to. I can't let them get you too. They already took Jessica. They took your father. I won't let them take you. S.A. Ra shook her head. I won't go. I'm going to stay here. I'm going to help you. Listen to me. I grabbed her shoulders. I looked her right in the eyes. There are things in this world that we can't explain. There are things that hide in the shadows. They wear faces, S.A. Ra. They wear the faces of the people we love. They did that to Jessica. They did that to your father. And if they find you, they'll do the same thing to you. S.A. Ra's face went pale. What are you talking about? You don't need to understand. You just need to get as far away from here as possible. Promise me. Promise me you'll go. She looked into my eyes. She saw the fear there. The desperation. Finally, she nodded. Okay, Mom, she whispered. I promise. That night, I lay in my hospital bed, ring at the ceiling. The psychiatrist came to see me. Dr. Chen. She was a small woman with kind eyes and a calm voice. She asked me questions about my childhood, my marriage, my children. She asked me about the fire. She asked me about the things I'd seen. I answered all her questions. I didn't lie. What was the point? The truth was the only thing I had left. When she was done, she set down her notebook. Mrs. H.A. Risen, she said. I don't think you're crazy. I looked at her surprised. You believe me, I think you believe what you saw, she said ruefully. I think your brain, in an effort to protect you from an unbearable trauma, created a narrative that made sense of the senseless. The monsters under the bed. The things we ring faces. It's a way of processing grief and loss. That's not what happened, I said. Maybe not, she said. But I think it's what you needed to happen. And that's okay. There's nothing wrong with needing to make sense of something that doesn't make sense. She left me with a prescription for anti-anxiety medication and a referral for weekly therapy sessions. I didn't take the pills. I didn't go to the sessions. I knew what I'd seen. I knew the truth. The things were still out there. I spent the next week in the hospital. Ra came to visit every day. She told me she'd bought a plane ticket back to California. She told me the kids missed me. She told me she loved me. On the day of her flight, she hugged me goodbye. Mom, you're going to be okay, she said. Of course I will, I said. I forced a smile. I love you. I love you too, Ra. Now go. And don't look back. She left. I watched her go. I felt a piece of my heart walk out the door with her. But I knew I'd done the right thing. She was safe. Far away from here. Far away from the things in the shadows. After she left, the nurse came in to check on me. Mrs. H.A. Risen, you have a visitor, she said. Who is it? I don't know, ma'am. She says she's a friend. The nurse stepped aside. A woman walked in. She was tall and thin. She had short, dark hair. She was wearing a blue sundress. Jessica's blue sundress. My breath caught in my throat. The woman smiled. It was Jessica's smile. The loving smile I'd seen 1,000 times. Hello, Mom, she said. I told you I'd find you. And then she opened her mouth too wide, revealing rows of sharp, jagged teeth. Her eyes glowed yellow. I tried to scream, but no sound came out. The creature wearing my daughter's face took a step closer. Don't worry, Mom, it said. I'm here to stay. My hand shot out, fumbling for the call button on the side of my bed. I pressed it frantically. A distant alarm began to sound in the hallway. It was faint, swallowed by the roar of blood in my ears. The creature didn't stop. It just laughed. It was a cold, hollow laugh. It was Jessica's laugh, but it was wrong. All wrong. It's just you and me now, Helen, it said. Its fingers reached for my throat. The fingers were too long. They were tipped with claws. My eyes were fixed on those claws. I knew what they would do. I had already seen the future. It was written in the grooved floorboards of Jessica's bedroom. The door flew open. The nurse burst in. Behind her, I saw a young man in a hospital orderly's uniform. The creature's head snapped around. It hissed, a sound like steam escaping a radiator. The nurse gasped and stumbled back. The orderly raised his hands, confused. Get out. I screamed. Get out of here. But it was too late. The creature let go of me. It turned to face them. It opened its mouth. I closed my eyes. I heard the nurse scream. I heard the orderly shout something. Then I heard a crash, like furniture being thrown against a wall. I opened my eyes. The creature was gone. The nurse was on the floor, clutching her arm. The orderly was helping her up. The window was shattered, just like at Jessica's house. A cold wind was blowing through the room. It just vanished, the orderly stammered. It jumped through the window. I looked at the broken glass. I looked at the empty sky outside. The creature was gone. But I knew it would be back. They always came back. The nurse was crying. The orderly was shaking. Neither of them could explain what they'd seen. Detective Miller arrived 20 minutes later. He looked at the broken window. He looked at the nurse's injured arm. He looked at me. You just can't stay out of trouble, can you, Mrs. H.A. Risen? Was it there? Did you see it? I demanded. He shook his head. I saw a lot of broken glass and 2 very frightened hospital employees. They said a woman in a blue dress attacked you. That's all they could remember. It wasn't a woman, I said. It was wearing my daughter. He looked at me for a long moment. Then he sighed. I'm going to have you moved to a secure floor, he said. 24-hour watch. No visitors without my explicit permission. It's for your own protection. I didn't argue. I was too tired. They moved me to a new room. This one had no windows. The walls were thick. The door was heavy. There was a guard stationed outside, day and night. I lay in my bed, STA ring at the ceiling. I felt nothing. Numb. Hollow. I'd lost my daughter. I'd lost my husband. I'd lost my home. I'd lost everything. But I was still alive. And that meant the fight wasn't over. The next morning, I made a decision. I wasn't going to hide anymore. I wasn't going to let them win. I asked for a pen and paper. The gua RD gave them to me. I sta root writing. I wrote down everything. Every detail. Every sight. Every sound. Every smell. I wrote about the scratching under the bed. I wrote about the yellow eyes. I wrote about the things that wore faces. I wrote it all down. When I was done, I folded the paper and put it in my pocket. I wasn't going to let them erase me. I wasn't going to let them erase the truth. They might kill me. They might wear my skin. They might wear my face. But they wouldn't get my story. That night, I sat in my windowless room, waiting. I didn't sleep. I just waited. And I listened. In the silence, I heard a faint sound. Soft. Rhythmic. Scratching. Coming from under the bed. Hello, Helen. A voice whispered from the darkness. I didn't scream. I didn't cry. I just smiled. Hello, Jessica, I said. I've been waiting for you. The scratching stopped. The room went silent. Then I heard something else. The heavy door to my room clicked open. The gua RD walked in. He was a young man, strong and capable. His eyes were yellow. Goodbye, Helen, he said. And the scratching resumed, louder than ever, as the darkness closed in around me.